Hello, friends. My name is Sean Keilen. I'm a professor at the University of California at Santa Cruz, and I'm thrilled to be here with you to talk about As You Like It for the Shakespeare 2020 project. Shakespeare wrote As You Like It in 1599. That's the same year he wrote Julius Caesar, the year before he wrote Hamlet, and not long before he wrote Twelfth Night. You may not know As You Like It as well as you know those other plays. It's certainly less famous. But I am here to tell you that it shares fully in the creative outpouring of this moment in Shakespeare's career, in this pivotal location between the comedies and histories that he wrote in the 1590s and the tragedies and tragicomedies or romances that would come after. I have some tips for you that I think will help you to enjoy the play more and to find your bearings. Tip 1. Pay attention to the settings where the action of the play occurs. Shakespeare's comedy follows a set pattern. Characters begin in point A, they move to point B, and they return to point A. Point A is always a place that bears some resemblance to the world we live in. It's a world where we learn who we are and become our identities by playing various pre-assigned roles in the social order. So Shakespeare is always thinking about identity in terms of what it means to be a child or a parent, or a wife or a husband, or a master or a servant, or a ruler or a subject. Usually at point A, some conflict has arisen among those different roles that all of us must play, and the social order is beginning to feel the strain. In point B, by contrast, which is always set outside the political community where the plays begin, the rules and roles according to which we live out our lives are somewhat relaxed. We're free to explore new possibilities, new senses of self, and to imagine human relations in different terms. And As You Like It, the pattern works this way. Characters begin in a duchy or dukedom in France. The ruler of that dukedom is Duke Frederick, who has recently expelled his elder brother, the rightful duke, from his throne. This world is characterized by sibling rivalry, especially between brothers, by violent entertainments, and by political oppression. Point B in As You Like It is the Forest of Arden, into which Duke Senior and his followers flee. Shortly, he's joined by his daughter Rosalind and her cousin Celia, and their fool Touchstone, by Orlando, Rosalind's lover, and his brother Oliver, and many other characters. And while they're in Arden, they ostensibly discover resources that will improve life in the duchy when they return to it. That's where they're headed at the end of the play. My question for you in relation to the settings in which the play occurs is, what is the crisis that leads so many characters to flee into the woods? And what are the resources that they find there for either resolving that crisis when they return or coping with it better? I have a second tip for you, and it's about laughter. One of the most appealing things to me about Shakespeare's comedy is that it's so reflective about its own nature. Shakespeare's always thinking about his art form, wondering how it works, considering its ethical premises. He is especially concerned in this play, as in Twelfth Night, as in Merchant of Venice, about what it means to laugh at someone and what it feels like to be laughed at. You can think of this play as a continuation of the attention that he brings to Malvolio in Twelfth Night, or Shylock in Merchant of Venice. Shakespeare lived at a time when people who defended the existence of the commercial theater believed that the purpose of comedy was didactic. It taught important lessons about the sacrifices that had to be made for diverse people to be able to live together in the same place. The point of laughter in comedy, this theory goes, was to target antisocial behavior so that the person who was behaving badly would be able to laugh at himself or herself and reintegrate into the social order. But Shakespeare was acutely aware that laughter is also something that we do to people we don't like without any pedagogical ambitions or any higher purpose. You can think about the way that laughter in this play works by focusing on the character called Jaques. Jaques is a lord who follows Duke Senior into exile. But once he's in the Forest of Arden, he decides that he wants to be a fool. He wants the privilege of criticizing people and laughing at them for their follies. What motivates Jaques to want to do that? And how do his companions feel about his aspirations? At the end of the play, Jaques will be the only character who decides to stay in the forest rather than return to the dukedom, which has been restored to Duke Senior. Why does he stay behind? Does Jaques stay behind because the play is trying to tell us that something about the kind of laughter, the kind of comedy that's been associated with him is genuinely antisocial, and it has no place in a better society, the society that's starting to take form at the end of the play? Or does Jaques stand back from the restoration of that society and refuse to join it because he recognizes that there's something genuinely wrong with it? Does he recognize that this new society that's taking shape can't take a joke, can't tolerate laughter? It's a very important question, and the way that you answer it for yourselves will tell you a lot about the way the play has persuaded you to think about comedy as an art form. Third tip, consider the competing visions of love that arise from this play, and in particular, focus on the very strange game that Rosalind is playing with Orlando for most of the play. When Rosalind flees into the Forest of Arden, she disguises herself as a boy called Ganymede. And in that disguise, she runs into Orlando, the man who loves her and whom she loves. He is wallpapering the forest with love poems about her. But as Ganymede, Rosalind volunteers to cure Orlando of his love for her. And she does it in the form of a very strange role play. Rosalind, pretending to be Ganymede, pretends to be Rosalind so that she can help Orlando stop loving Rosalind. While Rosalind is pretending to be Ganymede, pretending to be Rosalind, she behaves very badly, as if to prevent Orlando from idealizing her. What's happening here? Well, I would suggest to you that Rosalind understands that there's something wrong with the style of Orlando's love for her. And I use that word advisedly. I think she recognizes that Orlando's way of loving her is modeled on the conventions of the love poetry that the Renaissance associated with Petrarch. Shakespeare is often thinking about Petrarch and the way that he imagines the possibility of love or failures of love between men and women in Romeo and Juliet, in Love's Labour's Lost, in his own sonnets. Rosalind's elaborate game with Orlando seems to be an attempt to help him unlearn how to love a woman the way Petrarch's poetry suggests you must. A question: does Rosalind also teach Orlando a different way of loving? A way of loving that would make husbands and wives equal partners in marriage in a way that they could not otherwise be. And finally, I encourage you to spend some time thinking about the title of this play and what it means. Literally, the phrase "as you like it" means something like take it or leave it, love it or hate it, as if the play were saying from its very first word that it doesn't really care what kind of experience its audience has. I don't think that can be the case, however. There's too much going on of a very serious nature in this comedy for that to be the case. Suppose that "as you like it" refers back to the way that characters spend the majority of their time in the play, the time when they're in the Forest of Arden. What do they do while they're there? They think freely and they converse with each other. The German translator of Shakespeare's works in the 19th century, Schlegel, famously said that nothing happens in "As You Like It," or at least what happens is not as important as what's said. And he associated the title of the play with what he called a dreamy consciousness. The theater is also a form of dreamy consciousness. It's one of the freest expressions of thought and speech that our species knows. And I think the title of the play raises the stakes for us as audiences or readers of this play by asking a certain question. And the question might be something like this: what good is free speech and free thought in a politically repressive society? "As You Like It" is the only contribution that Shakespeare appears to have made to the genre of pastoral. Pastoral is a very ancient literary form, and what it does is use scenes of country life and rural experience to reveal something about urban experience that could not otherwise be known. It's a kind of funhouse mirror for showing urban elites their blind spots, their follies, their wickednesses. There's something of that in "As You Like It." The characters who come from the dukedom, point A, never really know themselves as well as they do after they've been in the forest. It's a kind of funhouse mirror in which their true reflections are revealed. But we could also think of "As You Like It" as a play about the experience of refugees fleeing political persecution and unfreedom. The New York director Jessica Bauman has recently produced the play in just those terms with spectacular effects. What do refugees from political oppression in this play do with their time? Well, they spend it talking to each other until a different way of imagining society comes into view, at which point they're able to return to the world that they came from on different terms. "As You Like It" asks what you will do with your free thought and your free speech about this play in particular. What's the point of it all? That's a lot to put on a comedy or onto an audience for a comedy. But serious concerns, urgent human concerns, are never far away in Shakespeare's comedies. He is interested in what it takes for us to be able to live together in peace. So I wish you the best of luck with this play. It is one of my absolute favorites. I hope it will be one of yours. I hope that you'll find it as you like it.